Who's ready for the latest hype train to pull into the station because Dominaria United preview season has begun? During this morning's video preview sets, they unveiled a whole new slew of cards dedicated to this new set. But let's begin with a very old reprint that everybody was already guessing was going to be coming. Liliana of the Veil. For 1 black, you get a Planeswalker Liliana. Starting loyalty is 3. Each player discards a card for +1. -2, target player sacks a creature. And -6, separate all permanent target player controls into 2 piles. That player sacrifices all permanents in the pile of their choice. This was a highly anticipated thing over the last few days when they revealed that there was going to be a fan favorite Planeswalker reprinted into the set. As such, I think it's going to be a decent addition to the standard format. Players are going to have access to it in the older formats as well, and then we're going to see what happens with it in Pioneer. Now we'll start up with some of the new cards that are coming. First up, we have Joyra, Ageless Innovator. For a red and a blue, you get a 2/3 Human Artificer that has tap. Put 2 Ingenuity counters on Joyra. Then you may put an artifact card with mana value X or less from your hand onto the battlefield, where X is the number of Ingenuity counters on Joyra. This thing has combo potential written all over it. If you have a way to untap this card over and over and over again, you can basically do kind of a stair-step effect similar to the birthing pod trains that you can do. As long as you have the artifact in your hand, you're able to just start slamming them on the battlefield, and you can keep doing things that tutor for other artifacts. This could be a card to watch out for. Next up, and coinciding with Liliana of the Veil, is the Raven Man. Finally, this guy gets a card. For 1 and a black, you get a Human Wizard 2/1 that says at the beginning of each end step, if a player discarded a card this turn, create a 1/1 bird creature token with flying, and this creature can't block. Pay 3 and a black, tap him. Each opponent discards a card. Activate only as a sorcery. Being that this activates during each end step, you can kind of try to work around ways of making your opponent's discard off turn, but you can also take advantage of the fact that your opponents are also probably trying to discard cards in some decks, and this could actually work to your benefit in the long run. Next up, we have Soul of Windgrace. For 1, a black, red, and a green, you get a 5/4 cat avatar, and whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, you can put a land card from your graveyard onto the battlefield tapped under your control. It also has pay a green and discard a land, gain 3 life, pay 1 and a red, discard a land, draw a card, and pay 2 and a black, discard a land. Soul of Windgrace gains indestructible until end of turn, and tap it. So this is actually a very good tie-in to the Lord Windgrace Planeswalker card that cared about lands, and his avatar here does as well. Coming straight from Mark Rosewater's spoiler sheet is the Elemental Demon Slootanar the Tainted. For 2 black, red, and blue, we get a 5/5 that has, at the beginning of your end step, choose 1 that has not been chosen. Draw a card. Each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Slootanar the Tainted deals 3 damage to up to 1 other target or planeswalker, or exile Slootanar and then return it to the battlefield under an opponent's control. So this thing is kind of spicy, especially in Commander, because it's going to bounce around the board once you've hit that last option on the card. They likened this to being kind of like the Liliana's Demonic Pact card, where you had to choose your choice, but the last one was lose the game. Well, in this case, it's your opponent gets the card. This is going to have some good implications for a lot of formats. It may even see some play in Standard as well. Next up, we have the man, the myth, the goblin legend, Squee, Dubious Monarch. Goblin Noble 2/2 with haste. When he attacks, create a 1/1 goblin creature token that's tapped and attacking. You may cast Squee, Dubious Monarch from your graveyard by paying 3 and a red and exiling 4 other cards from your graveyard rather than paying its mana cost. Also known as having escape. They didn't want to keyword that in because it's not a keyword from the set. But hey, I get it. This is kind of neat. It's a different way for him to play on the whole I can't die mechanic that Squee has had since his first printing. And I think he's going to make a good addition to just about any goblin deck or any kind of red aggro. Another throwback legend that they introduced today was Zer Eternal Schemer. For white, blue, and a black. You get a 1/4 Human Wizard with flying. that says enchantment creatures you control have Death Touch, Lifelink, and Hexproof. And you can pay 1 and a white, target non-aura enchantment you control becomes a creature in addition to its other types and has base power and toughness equal to its mana value. So all your non-aura enchantments in your deck, you can animate them and start swinging them at your opponent. So like if you have something like, I don't know, Black Market Connections as an example, you can use this to animate it and turn it into a 3/3, and then you can start attacking with it. And it also gains all these abilities of Death Touch, Lifelink, and Hexproof once you've animated it. Here we have one of the new Weatherlight crew members, Wrath Weatherlight Stalwart. For a white and a blue, you get a Human Wizard 1/3 that says whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you may tap 2 untapped creatures you control. If you do, draw a card. And then 3 white, creatures you control get +1/+1 and have vigilance until end of turn. This is in the vein of the original uncommon legends that they introduced, because this set is very similar to the old set of the original Dominaria that gave us those legendaries that are at uncommon. And this version of Wrath is different than his first incarnation, but he has some nice advantages here. He's going to probably be a very good limited card with his activated ability. Not sure he's going to see a whole lot of play other than maybe a role player in Commander and in Standard. They've also unveiled what the Planeswalker box topper is going to be in the 20 Legends Reborn cards are going to be Savitri Dragon Master. For 2 black and blue, you get a 4 starting loyalty Planeswalker, Savitri, that has +1 until your next turn. Creatures can attack you or Planeswalkers you control unless they pay 2 life for each creature. -3, search your library for a dragon card, reveal it and put it into your hand and then shuffle. -7, destroy all non-dragon creatures. Savitri Dragon Master can be your commander. So basically, her +1 is Norn's Annex, or a variation thereof, where they have to pay life to actually be able to attack you. It has a Dragon Tutor as a -3, and it has a version of Crux of Fate attached to it as an ultimate. I could see this being a role player in something like the Dragon or something of that nature, but there's not really enough black or blue dragons to really see this being a good starting commander. Love it or hate it, Phyrexian Mana is back, sort of. Defiler of Dreams. For 3 blue, you get a 4/3 Phyrexian Sphinx with flying that says, as an additional cost to cast blue permanent spells, you may pay 2 life. Those spells cost blue less to cast if you pay life this way. It only affects the amount of blue mana you pay. Whenever you cast a blue permanent spell, draw a card. So this kind of gives you Phyrexian Mana to pay life to reduce your blue spells by 1, but it only goes into permanent spells. But it's got the nice cantrip effect on it as well, and it's a decent body. I could see this seeing play in some sort of tap-down deck or something like that. We'll have to see what else comes out in the set to see how good this card really is. Next up, we have Archangel of Wrath. For 2 white, you get a 3/4 angel with kicker of black and or red. Then it also has flying and lifelink. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, it deals 2 damage to any target. If it was kicked twice, it deals 2 damage to any target. So if you pay a black, you get one of the kicker triggers. If you pay a black and a red, you get both kicker triggers. And then fun fact, look at the sword in her hand. It's a Chroma's Sword of Vengeance. Nice little treat there. For the Commander crowd, they revealed the front-facing cards of both of the pre-constructed decks. First, we'll look at the Mardu Commander, Dihada Binder of Wills. For 1 red, white, black, you get a 5-starting loyalty Planeswalker, Dihada. +2, up to 1 target legendary creature gains Vigilance, Lifelink, and Indestructible until your next turn. -3, reveal the top 4 cards of your library. Put any number of legendary cards from among them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. Create a treasure token for each card put into your graveyard this way. And then -11, gain control of all non-land permanents until end of turn. Untap them. They gain haste until end of turn, and she can be your commander. This plays basically if you're playing a bunch of legendary creatures and legendary permanents. This card is actually going to work really well with it. I love the flavor of the -11. It's like a souped up version of Insurrection, because instead of just stealing all your opponent's creatures, you get all their non-land permanents, enchantments, artifacts, all of it is yours until the end of that turn. On the other side, we have Jared Kurthalian with a mana cost of Wooburg, 5 starting loyalty, Planeswalker Jared. +1, create a 3/3 Kavu creature token with trample that is all colors. -3, choose up to 2 target creatures for each of them. Put a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to the colors it is. -6, return target multicolored card from your graveyard to your hand. If the card was all colors, draw a card and create 2 treasure tokens. This can be your commander. If you're going to play a 5-color commander, I mean, you might as well go all in and just squeeze in as many 5-color cards as you can to get advantage of that 6. The good part on this, though, is the -3 to put a bunch of counters on stuff, because Domain was reintroduced in as one of the keywords, which actually matters about the colors of mana that your lands produce. So in this case, for every basic land you have of the type, it's going to give you a special ability, and in this case, you're going to want to cast things that are multicolored at probably at least 3 colors each, and then give it a bunch of counters and use that to try to run over your opponent. The also is just one neat comment in the mix there. Benelish Sleeper. For 1 and a white, you get a 3/1 Phyrexian Human Soldier with Kicker Black. When Benelish Sleeper enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, each player sacrifices a creature. This is basically a build your own Plague Bearer type situation where you can play a 3/1 for 1 and a white, or you can play 1 white black and you get the sacrifice trigger. It'll be a role player, especially in limited. Might see some play in standard as well. I don't think it'll do a whole lot for commander, but we'll see what happens. Next up, we have Guardian of Newalia. For 1 and a white, you get a 2/2 human soldier with Enlist. Enlist is a new keyword ability that they're introducing in this set that says, as this creature attacks, you may tap a non-attacking creature you control without summoning sickness. When you do, add its power to this creature's until end of turn. So whenever Guardian of Newalia enlists a creature, you scry 2, and then you can also discard a card and it gains indestructible until end of turn, and you tap it. So with Enlist, the creature that you tap to go with it cannot have summoning sickness. It must have haste, so you cannot tap new creatures that come into play that turn unless they have haste to do this. But in the end, what you do is you add the power of the tapped creature to Guardian of Newalia as it's attacking. And then whenever it enlists a creature, you get to scry the 2. This is kind of a neat card. It's going to see a lot of play in Standard. I already see that. It may even see play in some of the other formats like Pioneer and Modern. But the nice part here is you can actually just like, oh, this creature's not any good anymore, like a 1/1 or a 2/2, other 2/2 that's outclassed by like a 5/5 or something like that. Well, if you tap it to add its power to this, you can keep on swinging with this, and it can kill things that are outclassing the other creatures, keep the other creatures safe, and then you just pitch a card to make this indestructible if they do block it. This is a good card, and it's going to see play. We also now know what the rare land cycle of this set is going to be. They are bringing back all of the dual pain lands. A lot of these came along years ago in base sets and whatnot, and then the enemy pain lands came along in the Apocalypse set. And all these things are coming back now, so you're going to have access to dual colored mana. All you got to do is pay a life, and then it'll produce whatever colors it has, or it taps for colorless if you don't want to pay the life. Here we have the Blue Wrath of God effect that Mark Rosewater was alluding to in his little preview thing a couple days back. The phasing of Zhalfir. For 2 blue, you get an enchantment saga that says another target non-land permanent phases out. It can't phase in for as long as you control the phasing of Zhalfir. That's the first 2 chapters. The final chapter is destroy all creatures. For each creature destroyed this way, its controller creates a 2/2 black Phyrexian creature token. But it also has a new keyword that's only on sagas in this set, read ahead. You choose a chapter that you start with on this thing, and you skip the other chapters. So if you need to wipe the board before you get run over by a bunch of big stuff, you can immediately skip this thing to chapter 3 and blow the board up and turn all those 4/4, 5/5 creatures into 2/2s. Or if you have time to live through it, you can start phasing out some of your good creatures, and then on the last chapter, blow the board up, and then you get your creatures back from the phasing. This will probably see some kind of play, especially as some kind of weird control thing, but this is a very good card. We finally have the answer as to what the new Shieldred is going to be. It's Shieldred the Apocalypse. For 2 black, you get a 4/5 Phyrexian Praetor. It has Death Touch, and whenever you draw a card, you gain 2 life. Whenever an opponent draws a card, they lose 2 life. This is a really good rated body. It's a 4 mana, 4/5 Death Toucher. That's already going to probably see play in Standard, maybe even in Pioneer. It's pretty good in Commander as well. But the nice part about this for Commander is the abilities. You draw a card, you gain 2 life. If they draw a card, they lose 2 life. Say hello to Wheel of Fortune and all its friends, because Nekosar the Mindraiser just got a new best friend. Last but certainly not least in this is a Johnny Sleeper Agent. Sorry folks, your favorite feline has turned and he's a Phyrexian. For 1 green, Phyrexian green-white, and a white, you get a 4 starting loyalty, a Johnny Planeswalker that says completed. The Phyrexian mana can be paid with a white, a green, or 2 life. If the life was paid, it enters with 2 fewer loyalty counters. +1, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature or planeswalker card, put it into your hand. Otherwise, you may put it on the bottom of your library. This is where it gets interesting. -3, distribute 3 +1/+1 counters among up to 3 target creatures. They gain vigilance until end of turn. So he's still got his +1/+1 counter motif, but you can either beef up 1 creature a bunch or spread the love and start getting things going really well. And then -6, you get an emblem with whenever you cast a creature or planeswalker, target opponent gets 2 poison counters. I do believe this is the poison spell that Mark Rosewater mentioned in his little preview list, as well as being the completed version of a Johnny Goldmane. This thing, I don't know how much play it's going to see in Standard. I think it's a little slow for Standard. It might get some play for its -3 ability. I don't think it's going to see any play in the Legacy formats outside of Commander. Commander Super Friends will probably play this because if they have Doubling Season out, they can immediately -6 him and start poisoning players out, especially if they're running Proliferate tricks as well. So there you have it, folks. That was the batch of spoilers from today's preview video that came out this morning. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What cards got your juices flowing? I'm going to be creating some Historic Brawl and Commander decks based off a lot of these legends. There's going to be a lot of videos coming off of this set. So please stay tuned. And as always, thank you for watching and have a great day.